Stockpile Man here. Last video I showed you the 15 foods you won't be able to find after July. People who watched that video messaged me, went to the store, bought everything, said they were ready. And I had to tell them something: if you are storing these foods the wrong way, buying the right things means nothing. Because one item on this list, 25 years when stored correctly, but goes bad in 2 years when stored wrong. Another one is kept in the most common spot in every American kitchen, and that's exactly what's destroying it. Today we are breaking down all 15 mistakes. Let's get into it.
15. All-purpose flour. Gold medal. King Arthur. Let's start with flour, because almost everyone makes the same mistake with this one. Most Americans store flour in the paper or thin plastic bag it came in, sitting on a shelf. That destroys the flour within a year. The small amount of natural oil in flour starts going rancid with heat and oxygen exposure. Weevils and flour moths, far more dangerous, can easily chew through thin plastic and paper bags to get inside. According to USDA data, improperly stored flour goes bad in an average of 6 to 8 months. But here's what actually surprises people. White flour stored correctly lasts 2 years and up to 3 years in the freezer. Whole wheat flour is a very different story, at most 3 months on the shelf, because the bran and germ have a much higher fat content that goes bad quickly. The right method: transfer flour into an airtight plastic or glass container the moment you get home. Place a bay leaf inside, it keeps flour moths away. You can put it in the freezer. Placing large bags of King Arthur or gold medal directly in the freezer triples their shelf life. When you take it out, let it come to room temperature before using. 14. White rice. Mahatma. Kokuho rose. Stored correctly, this product lasts 25 to 30 years. Stored incorrectly, it goes bad in 1 to 2 years. The difference comes down to a single variable. The vast majority of Americans store rice in the cloth sack it came in a kitchen cabinet or pantry. That's wrong. Cloth sacks let moisture, oxygen, and harmful bacteria straight through. Once moisture gets in, rice starts absorbing mold spores. Once harmful bacteria get in, they can ruin an entire stockpile. The right method: Mylar bag plus oxygen absorber. Used together, white rice maintains quality for 25 to 30 years. This isn't an exaggeration, it's a USDA-approved storage method. You can find food-grade Mylar bags and 300 to 500 cc oxygen absorber packets on Amazon and at Walmart. Fill the bag, drop in the absorber, heat seal the top, and store in a clean, cool place. One important note: brown rice cannot come close to this shelf life. The bran in brown rice means a much higher fat content. Best case, it lasts 6 months to 1 year. For long-term storage, use white rice. 13. Popcorn kernels. Orville Redenbacher, Bob's Red Mill. This is a storage item most people don't think about, but it makes a lot of sense. Unpopped popcorn kernels stored correctly can last up to 10 years, and they're extremely valuable both as a calorie source and for flavor variety. But the common mistake here is storing them in the original plastic bag or an open container. That pulls in moisture, and eventually the kernels refuse to pop, because popping requires the moisture inside the kernel to be at a specific level, not too dry, not too damp. The right method: a glass jar or airtight plastic container in a cool, dark cabinet. Keep it off the floor. Moisture and temperature swings at ground level have a negative effect. They'll pop reliably for years, and your shelf life is locked in. 12. Coffee. Folgers. Maxwell House. Large can. How you store coffee matters as much as what you paid for it. Coffee prices are at record levels right now. Large cans are pushing past $20, and most Americans store this expensive product either on the counter or in the cabinet right next to the stove. Both are wrong. Coffee's biggest enemies are heat, light, moisture, and oxygen. The cabinet next to the stove delivers all 4 at once. The counter exposes it to light and temperature swings. Research has shown that coffee loses 40% of its aroma compounds within 3 to 4 weeks under these conditions. The right method: unopened large cans stored in a cool, dark cabinet last 3 to 5 years. Transfer opened coffee into an airtight, opaque container. If you're using a glass jar, keep it away from light. Never the refrigerator. Moisture, absorption, and odor transfer destroy coffee. The freezer works, but only once repeatedly thawing and refreezing lets water crystals destroy the aromatics. 11. Olive oil. Bertolli, Kirkland. The way you're storing this product is probably wrong right now. Most Americans either keep olive oil out on the counter in the open or in a clear glass bottle right next to the stove. Both cause a bitter taste to develop within weeks. Olive oil's Oil's biggest enemies are heat and light. With its low saturated fat content, olive oil is extremely sensitive to both. Researchers at Ohio State University showed that olive oil that can last 2 years at 65 degrees Fahrenheit in a dark environment drops to just 6 months at 75 degrees Fahrenheit with light exposure. The right method, if it's in a light or clear bottle, transfer it to a dark container, a dark cabinet away from the stove and sunlight. Keep a small amount on the counter if you're going through it in 2 weeks, that's fine. For bulk storage, the best option is a dark glass bottle or stainless steel container. Close the lid tightly after every use. 10. Spices, garlic powder, cumin, black pepper. The mistake made with these products comes from the most common kitchen habit there is. In 70% of American homes, spices are stored next to or above the stove. It looks convenient, but it's devastating for the spices. Heat and steam rapidly break down essential oils, meaning it doesn't spoil the spice, but kills its flavoring power. A spice with 2 years of fresh potency becomes colorless and odorless in 6 months. According to food science research from Ohio State University, spices stored above the stove lose aroma at 3 times the rate of those kept in a cool, dark cabinet. The right method: store spices in airtight glass jars inside a dark, cool cabinet. If you bought large format, which is getting more expensive and harder to find right now, keep the main container in the dark cabinet and transfer small amounts into a daily use jar. This way, garlic powder or cumin can stay fresh for 3 to 4 years. 9. Canned goods. Campbell's, Hunt's, Starkist. There's a very common but very dangerous misunderstanding about this product. Here's what the USDA is clear about. Canned goods stored above 100 degrees Fahrenheit face exponentially higher spoilage risk. You don't need a car trunk or a summer garage to hit that temperature. The lower cabinet next to the stove or a pantry section that gets direct sunlight can get there easily. But here's the less known part. Canned goods stored on the floor are far more vulnerable to moisture damage. Concrete floors pull in moisture that seeps from the outside into the metal can, causes oxidation, and can eventually compromise the contents. And the biggest mistake of all, deeply dented or severely creased cans. A slight dent on the top or bottom lid is fine, but a deep crease along the side seam can compromise the packaging integrity and allow bacteria in. The right method: 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, dry, on a shelf, off the floor. Check your shelves every 3 to 4 months. Remove anything bulging or rusted immediately. Properly stored, most canned goods are safe for 3 to 5 years or more. 8. Honey. Sous B. Nature nates. The mistake people make with honey usually reveals itself the moment they throw it away. Honey crystallizes. The clear, liquid gold turns brown and granular, and the vast majority of Americans assume that means it's gone bad and throw it out. That's a serious mistake. The USDA is clear. Crystallization is not spoilage. It's a physical change caused by the natural concentration of sugars in honey. The antimicrobial properties of honey are completely unaffected by this process. It's not spoiled, it's still fully usable. Getting crystallized honey back to liquid is simple. Place the jar in a bowl of warm water for 10 to 15 minutes. Don't use the microwave. Excessive heat destroys honey's enzymatic structure and its antimicrobial properties. So what's the right storage? Honey should never go in the refrigerator. The cold accelerates crystallization dramatically. Room temperature, in a dark cabinet or pantry, is ideal. The lid should always be tightly closed. Moisture is the only real threat. If you bought large format honey, as long as there's no moisture buildup on the inside of the lid, it's in a cool, dark place, and the lid is closed tightly after every use, that honey will keep indefinitely. 7. Yeast. Fleischmann's small packet. This product is a living organism, and most people completely ignore that fact. Most Americans store yeast on the kitchen counter or in a room temperature cabinet. A standard small Fleischmann's packet stays active at room temperature for only 4 to 6 months. After that, the yeast is technically still usable, but its leavening power drops dramatically. Here's the real problem. People use this yeast a year later and the bread doesn't rise, and they can't figure out why. They check the packet expiration date hasn't passed, but yeast stored at room temperature ages. The expiration date is based on laboratory conditions, not your kitchen counter. The right method: an unopened yeast packet stays active in the refrigerator for 1 year and in the freezer for 2 years. Commercial vacuum-sealed bulk yeast blocks stay at full potency in the freezer for 5 years or more. Before using, test your yeast. Dissolve it in water heated to 110 degrees Fahrenheit with a pinch of sugar and wait 10 minutes. If it foams, it's active. If it doesn't, discard it. 6. Nuts. Planters. Fisher large format. This product keeps getting more expensive, harder to find, and most people store it backwards. Nuts are extremely prone to going rancid due to their high fat content. Nuts kept at room temperature in a light exposed container start developing off flavors within 1 to 3 months. This isn't dangerous, but it makes them very hard to eat. Americans typically store nuts in open containers on the counter or in the original plastic bag. Both are wrong. The right method, an unopened large format nut bag lasts 6 months to 1 year in the refrigerator. In the freezer, it can go 1 to 2 years. Frozen nuts can be eaten straight from the freezer or thaw quickly at room temperature. Freezer storage is practically essential for walnuts, hazelnuts, and almonds. In particular, the fatty acid profile in those three goes rancid much faster than other nuts. 5. Tomato paste. Canned tomatoes. Hunt's Del Monte. There's one specific mistake made with this product that almost no one thinks about. Canned tomatoes and tomato paste are high-acid products, and the USDA is clear on this. High-acid canned goods experience faster internal lining degradation than low-acid ones. The thin coating on the inside of the tin is gradually affected by the acid over time, and that tin flavor starts transferring to the food. This isn't a safety issue, but it does affect quality. But the bigger and far more common mistake is this: opened tomato paste or canned tomatoes get put back in the refrigerator inside the tin. That's wrong. Leaving an opened metal can in the fridge accelerates both lining breakdown and flavor change. The right method: transfer any open tomato product immediately into a glass or plastic container and use it within 5 to 7 days. For long-term storage, prefer the larger 2 8-ounce cans from brands like Hunt's or Del Monte and open one at a time. Store unopened cans on a shelf between 50 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit away from moisture. 4. Cooking oil. Crisco. Wesson large format. The most common mistake with large format cooking oil is storing it somewhere visible and easy to reach. Vegetable oils are extremely sensitive to light. Oil stored in a clear plastic container on a sunlit counter or in a warm cabinet goes rancid much faster. Rancidity isn't dangerous, but it degrades both the flavor and nutritional value of the oil. Research is clear. Vegetable oil stored cool and dark at 65 degrees Fahrenheit lasts 2 years, while the same oil above 75 degrees Fahrenheit with light exposure drops to 6 to 8 months. The right method: store large format cooking oil in a cool, dark, dry place. A pantry or basement is ideal. If the clear plastic container lets light through, you can transfer the oil to a darker container. Add coconut oil alongside your vegetable oil. Its high saturated fat content means it holds up much longer and requires less management. A practical system: keep at least 4 large containers, start using the oldest one every 2 months, and replace it with a new one. This rotation gives you roughly 1 year of clean, reliable stock at any given time. 3. Dry beans. Lentils. Great value. Bob's Red Mill large format. One single mistake with this product changes everything. Dry beans stored correctly last up to 30 years. Yes, 30 years. Stored incorrectly, they become inedible in 3 to 5 years, not because they've spoiled, but because they become impossible to cook properly. After prolonged improper storage, beans never fully soften, stay hard inside, and cause digestive problems. Most people store beans in the original plastic bag or cloth sack. Wrong. Moisture, oxygen, and light gradually harden the bean's outer layer, and there's no reversing it. The right method: Mylar bag plus oxygen absorber, exactly the same as rice. Or 5-liter food-grade plastic buckets. Cool, dry, away from light. Under these conditions, dry beans genuinely remain usable for 25 to 30 years. Number 2. Crackers, granola bars, snacks. This category gets overlooked by most people, but it holds an important place in any serious food storage plan. Snacks fall into what psychologists call comfort foods. During a prolonged difficult period, after days of eating rice and beans, even a small granola bar has a real effect on keeping morale up. Research has shown this repeatedly in military and humanitarian aid logistics. Familiar and enjoyable snacks are considered critical for psychological resilience, but these products are typically stored in their original box in a warm, humid kitchen. Granola bar fats go rancid, crackers absorb moisture and go soft, salt packets packets clumped together. The right method: transfer into airtight containers or mylar bags, a cool, dark cabinet. For crackers, add a silica gel packet. It absorbs moisture and keeps the product crisp much longer. Granola bars do very well in the freezer. They thaw quickly at room temperature and are ready to eat immediately. 1. Salt and sugar, Morton, Domino, 10 pounds or more. Finally, let's talk about these two, because almost no one stores them correctly. Salt first. Salt keeps indefinitely, it doesn't chemically spoil. But most people assume that once salt has clumped from moisture, it's unusable. That's not true. Even if salt absorbs moisture and clumps, once it dries out, it functions normally again. The real long-term concern is iodine. Iodized salt, stored for more than 5 years, loses its iodine through evaporation. The salt is still edible and still functions as salt, but the iodine is gone. Store large format non-iodized or rock salt separately from iodized salt. Non-iodized salt keeps indefinitely. Morton iodized salt in an airtight container, cool and dry, keeps well for up to 5 years. For sugar, the situation is straightforward. White sugar stored correctly keeps indefinitely. But sugar is very sensitive to heat and moisture. It hardens when it absorbs moisture and changes color and flavor with heat exposure. Brown sugar is far more sensitive. It turns rock hard when it loses moisture. Transfer large 1-0 pound bags from brands like Domino into airtight containers. For brown sugar, add a moisture-retaining element. There are discs made specifically for this purpose called brown sugar keepers, available on Amazon for a few dollars. These two products, salt and sugar, make everything else in your stockpile worth eating. Without them, it doesn't matter how much food you've stored.
Now you know all 15 mistakes, and most of them can be fixed today, right now, without spending money, just by changing where you put things. Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers, a good starter set on Amazon, runs about $20. A few airtight glass jars, you can find them at Walmart for around $10. Those two investments protect hundreds of dollars worth of stockpile. The USDA estimates Americans' household waste $1,500 worth of food per year. And that significant portion of that waste comes not from food that spoiled on its own, but from food that was stored incorrectly. You bought the right things. Now store them the right way. In the next video, I'll show you something that surprises even experienced preppers. There are 10 foods sitting right in front of everyone, Walmart and Costco, that almost no one puts in their cart, and they don't show up on most stockpile lists because you can't tell what they are just by looking at the packaging. We are breaking those down next. Don't miss it.